So I just went to go see Sinners last night, and I think I'm ready to put Ryan Coogler in that category of like directors I always want to go see. For example, like not Hans Zimmer, but his director of choice, Christopher Nolan, and just to say Ludwig, the musical person, his album was bomb too. Black Panther, Fruitvale Station, a host of other things. But I'm not here to really review the movie Sinners. I'm here to really talk about the character. I love movies that tell you the ending before the ending. And you can always tell what the ending it's always great when they do that foreshadowing. Because if you have a keen eye for detail and a sense of direction of how movies are made, it's just a lovely way of the director rewarding you for making it this far, right? And I really love how Ryan Coogler did this. So if you haven't seen Sinners, I'll give you the TLDR. It's a great movie. If you find yourself wanting to say something bad about it, like if you're a black person, I saw this one black guy who gives off the energy that he only dates white women. And the only reason why he dates white women is because he doesn't like black women. So, I don't expect him to understand this movie because the movie's making fun of people like him in the movie. And then also, if you're like an Hispanic person who's like, I can't believe they put an Asian person in this movie before they put a Hispanic person in this movie. You guys let Blue Beetle fail. And George Lopez was in that. So shame on you. Mind your business, stay in your lane. And as for the Asian population, for you guys don't know that there is a strong Asian population in Louisiana, Mississippi Bayou connection. I think it was really telling that in one shop, there was a bunch of black people, and then the husband told his daughter to go get his mother. And when that daughter crossed the street, she walked over to her mother to go get a bunch of who was serving a bunch of white people. And their accents weren't Asian. Their accents were Southern. There's a strong trade line that talks about how Asian communities helped prop up the black communities during Jim Crow era. So so much history and culture that I was shocked to see again after only hearing about it in books. It is one of the more magnificent situations to be able to read something and let it waft over you in your memories, to then have it regurgitated up by one of our all-star directors in Ryan Coogler with a star-studded cast and an individual, a young upcoming star standing amongst legends, and this is his first acting debut. Let's talk about Sinners and how we figure out and how picking your culture over your religion will set you free. Clap it.
God Almighty.
Yeah.
God Almighty.
Yeah.
God Almighty.
That's right. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. How you guys doing? My name is Hero. This is Coding with Strangers, and somebody take me in their arms tonight. It's a great song. I got it on spinning, on rotation right now. Also, Easter egg. I already told you, spoiler alert in the beginning. If you go to the Spotify playlist, go to the album art, swipe all the way to the left. There's an Easter egg there. But shout out everybody. I want to talk about Sinners. Spoiler alert. The movie was great. I'm not here to recap the movie. The movie's great. I'm here to talk about a spoiler. And I'm here to talk about how that spoiler relates to religion versus culture. Now, there's a lot of underlining things you can attribute to this movie. There's a cultural, there's a racial, there's a religious, there's a horror element, there's a black fear, a white stigmatisms. The black one drop rule, does that really apply? So on and so forth. And really, how the greatest evil can be justified by another evil, right? There's so many allegories and layers to this. And I love Ryan Coogler for being brave enough to talk about this. I also find it very strange. He was in charge of another series where there was supposed to be a family of black bounty hunters who hunt mythical beast like vampires and werewolves, but instead of killing them, they try and cure them. I find it strange that Ryan Coogler was in charge of that movie at one point in 2019, but from that descendant, we got this, and I'm not mad at it. But I love to talk about. There's a scene in particular where, after the vampires have been discovered, and all of the vampires have been discovered, there's a scene where black insecurity throws out their own people, even though you could have used that person in the fight at the end. So it's a tale about us being too hasteful with removing people in our culture without understanding the dilemma. They threw out a drunk person, but assumed that he had been bitten and was turning. So when they threw that individual out, when they all came back, they then realized, okay, all the vampires are outside, so that means there's a vampire on the inside. So amongst the people who were left, and I believe the people who were left was Sammy, right? Sammy, Stack, I believe it was Stack. Now I can't tell them apart. Stack has to be it was Smoke. Because Smoke, he likes to smoke, but he can't keep his hands steady, right? So yeah, it's Smoke. Smoke. So it's Sammy Smoke, the Asian lady, Annie, Smoke's girl, Slim, and Perlene. 6 people, right? And the movie tells us who's going to make it and who's going to die. And the people who make it will make it because they rely on their culture, not their religion. The whole time throughout this movie, it is a constant reminder. I could see why some super ultra religious people might not want to watch this, because they're like, oh, it's a fan of God. But it's also like saying, I think Remic's final words in his final kibosh says it all. Sammy was saying the Lord's Prayer, and Remick started to repeat it, and I thought that was so cathartic. Like, God damn it. The devil himself. Because Sammy is really Lucifer, if we're being real. Sammy's Lucifer, the angel with the best voice. And had the ability to corral and motivate a group of people. Sammy is the devil, but we'll get into that. But Remy, who is the head vampire, who's been there the longest, since like the 1911 or some shit like that, he said that the person who came and took his father also used religion, and it brought him peace in his time of aggression and rage. But it didn't save him, and it's not going to save you. Remick is a constant reminder, if you stick to your culture and mind your goddamn business, you don't have to worry, like, you'll always be protected. For example, Smoke, up until the moment he took off the mojo that Andy gave him, he was untouchable. And don't forget, a lot of people like to think that the silver was what kept his brother from biting him. In actuality, it was the mojo. The silver was definitely a deterrent, but the mojo was also there. And I love the fact they put them both there so you don't know which one it was, but you can infer for sure. But the moment he takes off his watch, his mojo, he's a goner. But the way you could tell who's going to die is based on the garlic test. Let's talk about it, right? So Annie is the person who concocts the test. And just for the record, can we talk about how the fact that Annie was like, they're not heathens, they're vampires. And everyone was like, okay, they're vampires. What do we need to do? Get wooden stakes, garlic, silver. Yes, ma'am. There wasn't somebody like, well, actually, we did have one of those people in the group. And you know who it was? It was Perlene, the preacher, Sammy's squeeze. She represents black excellence, exudes black excellence that wants to be seen above and beyond a basic Negro, especially back in those days. I love the fact that when she says she has she's a married woman, from that moment on, I always tried to look at her hand and I could never see her left hand. They purposely hid it, and I think they gave a glimpse before. I'm going to go watch it again, and I'm going to be paying attention for it. But it's an outright lie. But she believes for her age and her status in life, she's a singer, and we know that at least women singing back then just wasn't a thing. But she wasn't like a sharecropper or anything like that. She considered herself to be on the upper echelons of quality of life. So when given the choice of eating garlic or being shot, she had to be insisted upon twice. And Sammy took a bloody nose in exchange for it. She refused to conform to her culture as to remain on the upper echelon. So she forgoed her culture, so she had to go. Slim is a great example of how when you're fed culture, but there's poison in you, you're not going to make it. He has been poisoned by all the alcoholism and all of the drunkenness. And dare you say the garlic was a cleanse, because at the end he found a way to save himself by sacrificing himself. It's very lethargic to see Slim take that approach when he was known as this joker, but he knew what he had to do. And he made a promise to Sammy. They'll take me before they take you. And he wanted to make sure he fulfilled his promise. But because he wasn't, Slim wasn't against the culture, but there was too much poison in him to ingest the culture. Lee ate it with the incentive to make sure she didn't have a way. I'm thinking of the Asian lady. I think her name was Lynn. But the way she did it was so abrupt, so quickly. She didn't even chew. She just swallowed it. Because in her mind, all of this is beneath her. She doesn't care about the culture. She only cares about her family. And while that's not selfish and not hard to imagine as a mother, she already knows her husband is gone. And even though and the thing that's crazy is she expected and asked Smoke to accept his brother was gone, but she couldn't accept her husband was gone. Moreover, she thought she would rather sacrifice the group to save one person. So she's selfish, right? There are people, like, for all we know, they could have already converted half the town. And these are the last remaining people, and you sold them out on a dream that you heard from a person who's not your husband anymore, right? So she's selfish. She's selfish outright. The plan should have been simple. So, and this also goes to like sort of like the black community, especially right now. We're not a political channel, but there's a lot of people who are experiencing something that they thought only black and brown people would experience, and it's a shock to the system. And a lot of them are saying, I wish Black Lives Matter was here to standing with us today. But you made sure that Black Lives Matter couldn't stand on their own anyway. So it's one of those dualities. The next person I want to talk about is Smoke. Smoke took it after watching Annie do it. Smoke has always been protected, and Smoke will always do the protecting. And forgive me if it's really Stacks, but you know which one I'm talking about. The one that's in love with Annie. He will always turn to Annie for confirmation. He will always turn to Annie for confirmation. He will always come to Annie for confirmation, for understanding. Annie is his shield. Smoke is the spear. The only reason why Smoke didn't make it is because at the end of the day, he knew he had an obligation to either but an obligation to protect his shield as the spear. And he knew that if his shield was damaged, he must use the spear to make sure no one else can use the shield. So that's the request of him. He can't be the first to go. He has to be the second. Also, a pathway to his daughter. The only way he could ever get to his daughter is with Annie guaranteeing his passage through, right? Why didn't Annie make it though? I couldn't wrap my mind around this, and I had to rewatch the segment where she goes down. she goes down not because of anything that she didn't do, but it's because she decided to protect Sammy. When Sammy is under duress, Annie focuses on him, once again being a shield for another person. Annie's the ultimate shield of all of them, and even this is when you figure out that the vampires do have some semblance of consciousness, because when Annie is killed by smoke, Mary cries out. So now we have all of them, right? So we did Slim, we did Pearline, we did Lynn, we did Smoke. Now Sammy. Why did Sammy survive? Because Sammy held on to his culture. From the beginning of the movie, when he had that guitar piece in his hand, to the very end, when we see him again. It's the silver in the guitar that hurts Remick. It's the music that they want from the guitar. And that's more the reason why I think he is actually a representation of Lucifer, the angel that sings. Because if you think about how Remick jumped into the screen, Remick fell out of the sky like a fallen angel. Right? We have a bunch of those in the Bible. But Lucifer was known as the most angelic, musically gifted angel of them all. And his dad even mentioned it in the precursor. If you play the music, the devil will come find you. No, the devil will just bring out the worst in people. And that's what the music did. But I can see the reach with the whole devil thing. But in all honesty, Sammy continues to survive because he clings on to his culture. He clings on to the thing that isn't guaranteed to him. He's a sharecropper. He's a pastor's boy. He has cousins who have good money, and he could eat. There's so many things distract Pearline, Slim. Just like seeing Slim as an artist, to see like this is the life of an artist. You sit on a porch and beg for money, basically. There were so many things telling him, put his father in the church, so many things, at least 7 things pulling him away from his culture, his life, his dream. And if it wasn't for anything, it was the one thing that was keeping him alive all the time. In fact, if you pay attention really in the movie, the only time you see Sammy not confident is when he doesn't have his guitar. In fact, when you wake up in the morning, he goes looking for it. His dad took his guitar. He seems panicked. And not because he knows like it's gone forever, but he knows that he has to go through a hurdle to go get it. So I really love that allegory of that scene. I was able to see like so many things. I'm happy Ryan Coogler put it in the movie, because I was like, if I fell asleep right now and I woke up and everyone that I thought died, I wouldn't be surprised. But that's just my take on it. I definitely wanted to hear some other people's perspective. Like I said, if you didn't like the movie, I totally understand. Too bad. It's going to make good money. It's already made good money. Go fuck yourself. Vulture or Venture or whatever news article put out that bogus ass headline. But for the most time, in between time, meantime, do you think my ideas on how I predicted the movie was going to end halfway through was right? What were your predictions? Did you see any allegories that I missed? Any Easter eggs that I missed? Spoiler in the comment section. Please like, share, subscribe. Let me know what you guys thought of the movie Sinners. As Ryan Coogler rise to the occasion that you got to see all this movie like Peele and all of them, Jordan Peele and all of them. I think so. Me personally, I think this is the Wesley Snipes and the dudes that's all Wesley Snipes and Spike Lee connection that we always wanted. I want to see Ryan Coogler do something with Denzel. I want to see him do it with Denzel or fucking Nick Fury, Samuel L. Jackson. I want to see it, but anyway, I'm rambling. Like, share, subscribe. I appreciate you. Clap it.